This week on the channel, I'm answering questions about my upcoming workshop, The Swing Scale, which is happening this Saturday, May 20th at 10:30 a.m. Central Daylight Time. And today I'm going to answer a question prompted by yesterday's answer. Yesterday I was talking about the idea of playing the changes on the blues, and someone asked, are you going to talk about 2/5s or 2/5-1 chord progressions? And so if you're not familiar with that idea, when you're playing the swing version of the chord changes on the blues, which I talked about in a previous lesson that I'll put a link to down below, the swing changes are a little different from the way blues musicians play the 12-bar blues. On a typical blues chord progression, you get to the last line, or bars 9 through 12, and you play the 5 chord, in this case F, because I'm in the key of B flat, and then the 4 chord, E flat, and then back to 1. But swing musicians often start that line with the 2 chord, in this case C minor 7, and then go to the 5 chord, and then go back to 1. They don't go through the 4 chord to get there. So this idea of playing 2 and then 5 and then 1 gives rise to the expression 2/5-1, or just 2/5, meaning this part of the chord progression and the way that you would specifically go and spell that out with the licks you're playing. So this is a great idea, and there are some really hip things you can do with it. But when I started listening more closely to the musicians I really liked, and not just swing musicians like Charlie Christian, but more bebop-oriented musicians like, say, Joe Pass, and pianist Oscar Peterson, and the saxophonist Stanley Turrentine, I noticed that a lot of times they would do this thing where they would spell out the 2 chord, and then they would jump to a blues phrase in the home key. So like if they're playing in B flat, they'd play some kind of C minor 7 sound and then just move from that right into some kind of B flat blues lick to take them back home. So instead of hearing something like, right, spelling out the 2 chord and then spelling out the 5 chord, which is not a bad thing to do. That sounds pretty hip. That's a very classic Charlie Christian way to kind of frame a, 13th chord. Instead, you might hear, and what's going on there is, here's your 2 chord, right? Because this is the flat 3rd and the 5th and the flat 7 of C minor. And then all of this, here's the 3rd, root, 5th, flat 5, 4, 5, flat 3, 3, and root of B flat. So, and sometimes you'll hear it much bluesier than that. There's a lot of ways that it happens. But the idea is you can play the 2, and that gives you the feeling of, oh yeah, we're doing the 2/5, we're playing those swing changes. But then you do this kind of sleight of hand where it just slowly morphs from the 2 into the blues sound of the 1 chord, which always sounds good, always sets up tension over the 5 chord, and always sounds really satisfying when you get back to the 1. So that's actually the approach that I'm going to be including in this weekend's workshop. So tomorrow I'll be back with the answer to another question. To learn more about the workshop and sign up, just go to the link below or the link on screen. And if you've got a question or a comment, please leave it for me down below. I would love to hear from you, and I'll see you tomorrow.